What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's a Fantasy Alarm live stream. Apologies for our lateness. Some technical difficulties we've made through, and as you can see, you got both me here, Howard Bender, and Craig Mish. I gotta find somewhere where my volume is up and it's echoing in my ear here, Craig. Craig, how the hell are you, man? What's going on? It's been a couple of minutes here since the last time we got a chance to talk. How's everything?
Everything is good. It's Friday. I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West, so my weekend's kind of getting underway. I've had more or less a couple of days off of radio because I only did an hour yesterday, and I'm taking today off too. Just being honest with you. So my wife is out of town with my daughter. They went to go see some shows up in New York. I have my son. So it's going to be a boys' weekend a little bit. We'll have some fun. The Marlins are out of town, so no baseball for me. And, I'm monitoring my fantasy baseball leagues. This is a really good year for me so far across the board, doing very well. Maybe one of the best years I've had ever. I'm finding myself at least in contention at every league. I don't think I'm out of it yet.
Ooh.
So I'm looking forward to talking to you. Yeah, it's so far so good.
Listen, I'm all for accountability, which is what we're calling today's live stream, because listen, this is what it all comes down to. And Craig, you and I have had this conversation. I think we've had it on air. It's about who you trust. It's about the person out there whose fantasy advice you're seeking. They don't always have to win. They have to be competitive. They have to be paying attention. They have to be transparent with what they're doing. I've seen it far too many times, and I've gone to the mattresses with people about their lack of accountability, their lack of transparency. And so I think it's very important. Am I proud to say that I'm second to last in the FSTA league? No, of course not. But there are reasons behind it. It's not that I'm not paying attention. It's players who I was on who didn't pan out. It's injuries. It's a mix of stuff. But if somebody's out there just telling you that they're winning their home leagues and they're winning, experts leagues, but they don't tell you what they are, I mean, how are you supposed to believe them? How are you supposed to trust them? Not to mention, Craig, the people who tell you to do one thing and then sit there and turn around and do another.
Yeah, and the other part of it is that for a lot of people, they won't tell you, like you just said, when you're doing poorly. I mean, imagine me. I spent all of last year from April 1st all the way through August on a national radio show talking about how bad I was. I mean, that's what I did for 5 months on national radio. So, I wondered to myself, and I think a lot of people probably wonder that, Howard, too, is that, we've been doing this for a long time. And because we play in so many leagues, we have the ability to win in 3, lose in 2, win in 2, lose in 3. So we're always kind of going to be in the mix. Some people out there who are watching this live stream probably like, man, I'm only in one league. I'm not doing real well. Or I'm in one league and I'm doing real well. You just don't know. And then it makes you, I think, at least for me, going into this year, it definitely questioned my process a little bit as to how I went about things, because I felt like I was a really good player. I have performed well in the past in the experts leagues that I was in, but it does give you a little bit of a shock to the system when virtually all the players you think are going to be good are not, and then you have unlucky things happen too, no doubt about that. But this has been a completely different year for me, and of all the leagues that I'm in, the one that we share, the National League that we're in, somehow I'm still treading water with having, Clayton Kershaw out, Cespedes out, some very significant injuries. And so what that tells me is, wow, like even with a couple of issues, I'm hanging in there. So maybe I really did hit on a lot of other players. And that does make me feel good. Not that the players that I picked at the top went down, because that's going to happen in any fantasy league that you play in. It's really what you do in the middle to late rounds to keep you alive. And so far here on May 18th, I could say that I don't know that I'm going to win any of these, but at least I'm still in it, and we're 2 months in.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There are 2 leagues that I'm in. One, the NL only league that I'm in with you, that I can't seem to get anybody to deal me a first baseman, and injuries have wiped me out there. So playing the majority of the season without a first baseman tends to be a poor strategy to employ. FSTA, things that went right for me. Or things that went wrong for me, in addition to Tyler Chatwood walking a million guys. Sonny Gray not starting off the season well. Jose Quintana just hammering my ratios. So that coupled with all of a sudden I lose Jake Lamb and Jonathan Scope, and I lose Adam Eaton, all these guys on my fantasy roster here, and it's sometimes you just get hammered by them. But meanwhile, then you look at me over in NL Labor, and one of the things that you just mentioned actually is understanding the trends and going from year to year and seeing if maybe you need to employ a different strategy. I invested fairly heavily in some starting pitching, and they can't touch me right now in NL only, Craig. I mean, I'm maintaining like close to a 20-point lead on a daily basis there.
Yeah. And I think that I'm in the same boat. Like the process that I was talking about always in the past was I was very attracted to, the 5-tool type guys, the sleepers that can come out of nowhere. And that led me to neglect some pitching. And I just said to myself, you know what? I'm just really not good at identifying pitching. And I'm always finding myself catching up in terms of games started and strikeouts. And I didn't want to be in that position this year. So I invested very heavily as well. In all the leagues, it has worked out, except for the one that we're in together, where I took Kershaw. In another league, one of my main pitchers is Carlos Martinez. I thought he would be back already, and he's not. He went for an MRI again. And hopefully it'll be another week or two. But, that's anecdotal talking about just one player. But the process of a number of things has worked for me, but it wasn't a process that I usually followed. I think that if you look at your fantasy teams right now and you're doing well, you'd probably attribute it to the fact that you did score on some pitching at some point. I think that probably has to be the equation for success.
Yeah, easily. Scherzer investment. I did that. Patrick Corbin. Investment. I did that. And a number of guys. Aaron Nola is another guy. And these are guys who I said, you know what? I don't normally target pitching very early. Really does, it's a trend. And we've tracked it over the years here now, where I'm not going to go and take Kershaw, with my first round pick, but it depends on the league and the investment of the pitching there is rock solid. So I was going to, what was the point that I wanted to make off of that was, as far as the strategies went, there's actually 3 leagues that I'm not doing well in. One is the FSTA league, which I just cited, all of that. The other 2 leagues that I'm not doing well in, obviously your league, the NL only league, and the great fantasy baseball invitational, Craig. And the 2 similarities there in the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational, I took Jose Altuve number 1. In your league, I took Trey Turner number 1 with my first round pick. And every mock draft I did during the preseason, during spring training, every time I took a middle infielder like that early, I hated my teams. And so talk about like the disconnect there, or maybe it's trying to try different strategies just to employ him in season and see what happens. But I mean, I 2 leagues where I should have had a different pick. I should have done better in both these leagues. And I should have known, because that was what I learned doing all those mock drafts, that I didn't like those teams. And here I sit.
Yeah, but for context, for people who don't know, the FSTA, of all of the leagues that we do, and I have no problem saying this and being honest about it, to me, no disrespect to the FSTA, it is the least important and the least valuable league out of all of the industry leagues. This thing is done in January. It's the equivalent of doing a fantasy football draft next month. So much changes between January and opening day that how can you use any of that knowledge? I mean, that is like a best ball almost, as we call best. I mean, you really don't know what the bleep is going on in January. So many guys hadn't even signed yet. How much of that draft would have looked different with a lot of those players signed or in different places? So, that draft to me is a lot of luck involved. Guys get hurt in February, March, and spring training. I just don't. It's great for us because we get to kind of see where everyone's thinking about their players early on. But in the end, I don't put a lot of stock into that draft in particular. Now, the Great Fantasy Invitational, which I'm in also as well, was similar. in terms of when it started, but I found that one was very staggered over the course of weeks, and so things were happening, and you could kind of adjust on the fly during that time. And also doing a draft where you have 4 or 5 hours in a slow draft, at least for me, it was a good experience because I had never been in something where I just like had all of this time to really research and adjust and look at the board. And ironically, that league I'm doing better than any other league. I'm 5th out of 200. I'm 5th in the country in that one with 120 points. So, I mean, that was early too. I think that there's some luck involved in it also. But I just feel like you give me that much time in between picks to really adjust what's going to happen next round, previous round, 6 hours to make picks. Like, it was pretty easy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I guess my problem is that I hate slow drafts. I like to be in the draft room. Let's bang this draft out. Let's get it done. Start with our team evaluations and get the season going. Slow drafts frustrate me to no end, especially when you're sitting there and it's like, all of a sudden you find yourself on the clock and it's 6 p.m. Eastern. And I've got like other stuff going on where I'm like throughout my day. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I got to make sure I make this pick before my 8 hours runs out. And, it just doesn't always flow well for me like that. And I think that's probably what ruined me in a lot of ways over there. It was just the fact that I didn't really take that time in between all the picks to really analyze it. I still felt like, it fell to the wayside a lot for me. And then when it was time to make my pick, or it got to me and I was like, oh, finally, it's my pick. And I just took a guy. Right. Like that kind of
thing. And you're in way too many leagues and you've learned I mean, no disrespect. I think you've learned your lesson this year on doing
disrespect
leagues,
taken, buddy. Disrespect taken.
It's too many, man. Like you are running the show at Fantasy Alarm. Yeah, I mean, it was just. I know that you tried to do the right thing, but I am not going to allow you to go down this road next year. Like
and I won't. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, 7-8 leagues max. No.
That's too much. That's too much too. That's too much. I got to drop out of the leagues. Luckily, gambling will be legal soon, and I can just have it replaced.
We can just do one league, and that's it.
Right.
But what's interesting is that we'll talk about the things that hit and the things that missed. And and thinking about it, and I've been more vocal now because we're getting to the point where it seems like Ozzy Albies was. I mean, you could make the argument the best pick in fantasy to this point. Okay, in April I was quiet on it. I talked about how I had him everywhere. I talked about how he was my favorite player going into the draft. Everybody knows it. I said it all the time. But I would not discount, though, Howard, the reason why I'm doing so well is because of him. Like, I can't discount that. I think the process of having pitching and him is the reason. But I wouldn't do that with a pick in the first 4 rounds or first 3 rounds of any fantasy draft because you're really putting all of your eggs in that one basket at that point and taking that chance. For example, in the NL League that we're playing in, the Pay League, that was the only league where I had the choice to take Scherzer, and I took Kershaw. And the reason why I did is because I had Scherzer in all the other leagues, and I want I'm not going to learn my lesson the hard way. If something happens to Max Scherzer on day 1, I'll never forgive myself. I had Bumgarner in 2 leagues last year like that. But I do think that if you hit on a pick, that's a 6th round, 7th round pick, something like that, where Albies was going, maybe even a little higher, 5th round pick, and you get that guy across the board, and it fails, I think you could probably survive that. But if it hits and he becomes like an all-star fantasy player, you may find yourself in 1st or 2nd and 3rd in all of these leagues. And I got to tell you, I think that that's probably the primary reason why I'm doing so well, in addition to the pitching. Because if I just had Albies and I had no pitching, I'd be terrible at pitching. I'd be great at hitting. But I think that combination of attacking pitching early and making sure I got him in all of the leagues that I'm in is probably the reason why I'm hanging in there, because I didn't expect him to even do what he's doing now. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, I can't say that. Listen, I didn't think that he was even remotely going to do what he's doing right now. I got Ozzy Albies because I wanted speed. Like, that's what I was expecting. I was like, okay, here's a guy who's going to play second base for me, who hits for a good average, and is going to be able to steal me 20 to 30 bags. He was one of 5 players who I targeted in NL Labor. And made sure that I said these are the 5 guys who I want, who I'm going to get, and
you got him in that league?
And I got it was Ozzy Albies, Yeah, Ozzie Albies, Bryce Harper, Freddie Freeman on offense, Aaron Nola, Max Scherzer. I said those are the 5 guys I'm going to end up with in this draft, and boom, I did. Like I actually Scherzer, I had budgeted a certain amount for him, and I didn't think I was going to get him for that. And when all of a sudden, like the bidding stopped on him, I was like, oh my god, yeah, I got to definitely get this for the discounted price for where I had him. So those 5 guys are the targets of mine, or were the targets of mine. Those 5 guys are the reasons why I'm sitting here in first by 26 points right now.
Right, and you know what would be interesting to me in terms of a poll? I always wonder this because I say it and people are like, oh, it's never one guy. But I would tell you that if you own Scherzer and Albies in any league, I'm talking about NL or even mixed in a 12-team league, I'm not saying you're winning, but you have to be doing well. Like, I can't see any scenario where you have that guy and you have that guy and you're in 10th at 12. Like, how bad your draft had to have been? The best hitter. And again, it was possible because Scherzer was a first-round pick. Albies was 6th, 7th, 5th, depending on, and money-wise, in the 20s, depending on where you got them. I think that is the common denominator to success this year because Scherzer has been so good. Now, you can sub out Scherzer. You can put in Verlander or Garrett Cole, of course. But I just think if you have those two, that combination, because I can speak to that, I think that you can't look at your team and say, oh, I'm in 11th. I can't see it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right, guys, we're broadcasting here, obviously, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. You can find this over on Twitter. We're going to hit as many of your questions as we possibly can. We also want to give some accountability here, not just brag about the fact that Craig said Ozzie Albies, draft him everywhere, and those of you who listened are reaping the benefits. Those of you who didn't listen, Adam Lorber, guess what? Well, you're in the crapper right now. So it kind of happens, although he does text me about Matt Olson quite a bit, which I do enjoy. In any event, Craig,
Matt Olson is going to be great by the end of the year. I'm not worried about him at all. Yeah,
me neither. Big 3-run jack yesterday, also.
Yeah, man, he's going to be great.
All right, so let me hit some of these questions here before we start going through some of what went right for us and players that people should continue to look at here. Dustin Olson over on Facebook, Craig, categories league, I guess. He's got Didi Gregorius, Xander Bogaerts, and Andrelton Simmons. He's looking to add pitching. Which shortstop do you part with first?
It was Gregorius, Bogaerts, and Simmons, right? You're not going to get Howard in a trade. You're not going to trade Andrelton Simmons, and someone's not going to run to take him, right? Like that's not happening.
Right.
No one's going to believe that. Yeah. So you're going to have to keep Simmons, and then it comes down to where do you live? Do you live in New York, or even though Didi has struggled a lot, maybe there's a guy out there who has that East Coast bias and is willing to take a Yankee back. If not, then the answer is Bogaerts, because Bogaerts is going to get the best return. I think he probably has the most overall upside the rest of the season. And I think Didi will be fine. You'd just be trading him at a very low point over the course of the season. This 3-week slump that he's had has really crushed his numbers. So Bogaerts would be the guy to trade, because I think he'll get you the most back-end return right now, unless the person that you're trading with lives in the Northeast, because there is that Yankee East Coast bias, man. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. You play in a league, the guy likes the Yankees, you're likely to get a deal done.
Right, exactly. Love that. Stephen Feely wants to know, Craig, Franmil Reyes was just dropped as well and from his league. Was that an impatient owner making a mistake? Should he pick him up?
It depends on what the cost is. He hasn't looked great, I recommend picking up everybody. We'll talk about Meadows here a little bit later, but at what risk? What are you cutting to pick up Reyes? That's always going to be the question there. I mean, if you're cutting a player with track record over the course of the season, no. If it's going to cost you nothing and you're losing a DL spot, or you're just throwing a fat budget pick of $1, for people who don't know, that's the free agent acquisition budget, the money that you're given at the beginning of the season. If you're playing in that format, take a shot, put him on the bench, see what happens. Listen, I'm gonna have Reyes probably for another 7 to 10 days. If he doesn't do anything, I'm gonna cut him, or I'm gonna send him, back down or whatever. And with the Padres, may even send him back down. Who knows? But you always take your chances on these players.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if it's not costing you anything, or if it's not, if you're not cutting a significant player, a productive player for it, then yeah, absolutely. Okay, over on YouTube, Chris Wolf wants to know: is it okay to start John Lester today? Having that rain out yesterday, start pushed back. He seems to want to get a pitcher in there today. Sabathia and Freeland are also available, or would you just go with John Lester?
I haven't looked at the slate today, so update me on who the.
Well, I'll tell
who the
you
Cubs
here.
play.
The Cubs were rained out yesterday, and now they start a series against the Cincinnati Reds. They are in Great American Small Park.
Yeah, you do that. I know that the issues there is always with Hamilton getting on base and him throwing over, and I mean, definitely a factor there. But Cubs are better than the Reds, I would say significantly. The Reds mauled the Dodgers, but so did the Marlins. Dodgers don't look good. I wouldn't put any stock in the Reds. I'd start Lester.
Yeah, Sabathia. Oh, here you go. Would you start Lester over Sabathia on the road against the Royals?
Sabathia sounds like a better start.
What about
the Royals have lost how many in a row? They're like 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7, something crazy like that.
Yeah, the Royals only do well when I stack against them. So just so you guys
tonight's
know.
the night?
Tonight's the night. All right, so you like Sabathia more than you like Lester for tonight.
So. Okay. For tonight, yeah.
Kyle Freeland in San Francisco. No. Just flat out no. All right, there you go.
I don't mind Freeland. I know who he is. I've owned him at different times. He's a streaming option. He may pitch well tonight in San Francisco. I would pass. It's not for me. Yeah, among those other two guys.
If you've got the options, then yeah, the other options are good. But you know what? For DFS purposes, Kyle Freeland is a second starter going up against the Giants in San Francisco. It's kind of cool and rainy right now in the Bay Area, so that's going to help. Also, he's also a better ground ball pitcher. So, I like those options there. I'm gonna have to check in with some of my lineups, but for now, yes, Sabathia 1, Lester 2. Maybe start Billy Hamilton. Get him in there.
Yeah, Hamilton against Lester is always a great start. Always.
Cade Peterson wants to know, what are the odds of C.J. Cron keeping up this pace or anything close to it?
I'm supposed to say 25% here. That's my go-to. Cron has always been very streaky. He'll hit 5 or 6 in a month. He won't hit any for a month. And you just got to catch him on that streak. So my guess is at the end of the season, between 20 and 25 home runs, 70, 80 runs driven in. Am I off? Am I missing something? Pretty much it for me.
It's kind of interesting because when they brought Cron over to Tampa Bay and they had DFA'd Corey Dickerson at that point, they had said that they wanted a right-handed power bat. Cron gives him that. Cron definitely never got like really hardcore regular playing time for the Angels. Right. And that's a big deal. So now all of a sudden he's got that regular playing time. The problem is that the rest of the lineup around him is trash for the most part. You've got a couple of good guys in there sprinkled in, but overall, I'm not going to say that he's going to have this killer run production there because the surrounding lineup is a little on the weak side. I loved him yesterday on that revenge game narrative when he walked back into Angel Stadium for the first time. Dude went banana kicks, home run, stolen base. It's like bing, bang, boom, bang, boom. It's like 30-plus points over on FanDuel. It was yummy, delicious. But, I mean, I see him. I kind of put him in that 25 home run range also, Craig. I think that he can
I think that's right. Yep.
be in that area here. It's nothing that I'm going to freak out about. But it's definitely not something I'm going to dismiss and say that, he's not going to be able to, repeat any of it. I think that there will be some pullback. It's just not going to be as tremendous as some people might say it is. So,
okay, yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
There we go. All right, let's talk about a couple of things, Craig, that went right for us. Now, obviously, Ozzie Albies drafting Scherzer. That was great. Couple of other things that have broken right for you on some of your teams. Give me a couple.
Yeah, I think that in fantasy, Chris Davis of Oakland is very underrated. He does the same thing that Bryce Harper does. He gets 35, 40 home runs. You're playing in an on-base league, maybe a little bit different than playing in a batting average league, but you just know exactly who Chris Davis is. And next year, someone will not take him in the first 6, 7 rounds. and he will end up leading the American League in home runs or something like that. You can always get that kind of power from him, and he's better than Joey Gallo, and he's better than Matt Davidson. I feel like waiting on him, I didn't get a lot of power to begin with because I went pitching, and then here I'm getting it with Davis, who has a chance to lead the AL in home runs. I have Ender Inciarte. I don't know if that's just lucky with what he's done or that was being good, but I don't know where one of my teams would be without him. Like, I was expecting all those Albie steals that I'm not getting.
The funny thing is, you're getting it from Inciarte.
The funny thing is people are like, oh, he's really not that good. He only has 3 home runs. He's batting .260. It's like, what is the difference between Inciarte having 17 steals and one of your other players having 17 home runs in a rotisserie league? There's no difference. It makes Inciarte so valuable. Who else is stealing that many bases? So I'll call myself lucky for that one, because if he would have stole 17 on the season, I would have said, oh, okay, because that's what I was looking for. But he's carried me in terms of that. And then, low-end options. One of the low-end options that I took in Tout Wars, and it hasn't worked out per se, but I think it will, is Nimmo on the Mets. He just keeps getting playing time. I mean, he's going to get 3. Horace not playing well. And that was just a few dollars that I threw at him because I was just going 100, 400 plate appearances somehow, some way, whether it's Cespedes being out or Bruce being out, or Laguna, assume 260, 12 home runs, 40 runs driven in, and a handful of stolen bases. And I don't think a lot of people thought that, because they just looked at the outfield for the Mets and said, oh, there's just nowhere for him to play. And it may play itself out that way. So that's possible. Franchi Cordero's worked out. And then, as a low-end option also. And then the last one is obviously the closer situation. I mean, every year we talk about this and people fight. And it is incredible how the short memory is, and that we're going to be back doing this next year in March. And someone on our channel is going to go, look at that great double tap of those 2 elite closers that he got. It blows my mind every year. So not taking closers is certainly helped me everywhere again.
Yeah, it's the whole closer situation for me. I who early on in my career was all about the closers, because back then it was actually viable. Like, you had established closers there. It was like, grab Mariano Rivera every single year and you won't be disappointed. And guess what? You weren't disappointed. On my wall here in my office is an article I wrote back in 2011 for the Fantasy Baseball Guide, Peter Kreitzer's Rotoman's publication there, and that was my first magazine article that I had done. And it's about promoting closers, and now I'm like, these guys are dirt.
You're like, tear it down.
I'm like, these guys, it's like the evolution of fantasy baseball staring me in the face every single day that I'm here in my office, because it's like, if you aren't, like, that's the thing. If you aren't understanding the different trends year to year, then you're screwing yourself. Like, if you didn't invest in pitching this year, it means you really haven't been paying attention to what's been going on over the past 2 seasons. Even the stolen bases, everybody's like, steals are at a premium, steals are at a premium, steals are at a premium. Yeah, I get that, 3 years ago, but it has plateaued. And we've seen now over the last 2 years what's happened to people who have invested heavily or too heavily in steals. Where's Billy Hamilton? Okay, where's Jonathan VR? Okay, they're just, you're not getting it. So panicking over it and overdrafting was another mistake. And I think that if you're not understanding that from year to year, I'm spitting all over the place here. If you're not understanding that from year to year, then you're totally missing out. You're totally missing out. And then some of these things that you're talking about here, Chris Davis. I mean, if you're not following the fact that this dude hits 40 home runs every year and hits you 250, 240.
Not even. Who cares? Whatever. You know what? He's hitting 240. He's hitting 240. So is the entire league. What's the big deal?
Exactly.
That's what everybody else does. But yeah, I mean, I tweeted out the other day. I mean, think about this. Look, you could never have predicted Roberto Osuna for what to happen that he did. But the day before it happened, if you would have said to me, give me the best closer in baseball, you may have said Roberto Osuna. I mean, you may have said his name as the best. Now, that's an unpredictable thing.
He was top 5 coming into the season. Top 5.
Right, but why even spend a high pick? Now, look, I'm not saying you never take closers. I mean, you take them at some point, like at the end of the draft, you take your shots. But Brad Ziegler was not drafted in a lot of 12-team leagues. His ERA is what it is, and he hasn't helped you in that category. He has more saves than Kenley Jansen. He has more saves than Cody Allen. And look at where you took those closers. I mean, that's what you took them for. Not the ratios. Stop it. You took them for the saves. And you could have not taken Jansen, taken any hitter or any other pitcher on the board, and taken Ziegler in the 25th round and got the same result. Where in fantasy sports are we missing? How are people missing this year? But every year we'll come back next year. Someone will go, Wade Davis saved 51 games with the Rockies. Oh, he's going to be great, And no, he's not. Something's going to happen. The Rockies aren't going to play 3 to 2 games all season next year. Blows my mind.
Edward Rouse over on Facebook chimed in about Edwin Diaz.
Edwin Diaz is going to save 71 games. His ERA is going to be 1.2. He'll be the first closer off the board next year, and he'll get hurt, and he won't pitch.
That's the thing. You saw 2 years ago him take over the job in the second half, and he was lights out. And then everybody jumped on that bandwagon last year with him, and he
lost
was
the
terrible.
job.
He lost the job and struggled. Now he comes back this year, and he's the greatest thing ever. So, I mean, I'm heavily invested. Yeah, I'm heavily invested in Diaz this year as well. I think that he was one of the guys who I marked because it was a guy I could get in like the 9th or 10th round. Like I wasn't going for my. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, but and you always want to have 1 or 2 of those guys in a 12-team league just to hold the fort down until the madness starts in April and May. But early round picks on that. Just a huge mistake, and saying that it worked out is not by process; it's by law, really. When it comes to that position, and we'll be right down this road next year. I guarantee it. I mean, Wade Davis, ZRA is 3, so I don't know that he would be in that category. But Edwin Diaz is a great example of someone.
Somebody will just see 50. Somebody will just see 50 saves. They won't even look at the ratio.
He's sick. Even his WHIP will be 0.8. His ERA will be 2. Next year, 5th round, Edwin Diaz saved 50 games. He's an elite closer. No, he's not. There is none. There are none. There are no elite closers. There are closers that have been great. Kenley Jansen was the closest to that. It doesn't look like he's the same guy anymore. Kimbrel has been great, over the last decade. But I think that once Jansen and Kimbrel are done, I think that is it. I think it is down to just who has the best year coming off the year before.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so there we go. That's what we were right about. It's why we're winning in so many of our leagues. Yeah, now let's do the fun stuff here. I wish I had like a Jose Quintana jersey just to wear through this part of the show right now.
Me too. I know. I haven't too.
I targeted. Concerned. I'll throw the first one out here because I as I was saying, I was targeting Aaron Nola. Okay, but then I was like, there were 3 pitchers who were all coming off the board right in the same area, and it was Aaron Nola, Garrett Cole, and Jose Quintana. And there were probably like 4 leagues where I had the option. I already had Nola, and I had the option of taking either Quintana or Cole, and I went with Quintana. And I mean, did I know all of this with the Houston Astros and their spin rates and that Garrett Cole was suddenly going to become the greatest pitcher in the world? No, I did not. I went with Jose Quintana. Him and Tyler Chatwood, I was like, oh, yeah, loving the Cubbies rotation right now.
Yeah, I'm not, I would guess that they'll be better as the season goes on. Chatwood's just been disappointing because he's walking guys, but Cole would be a very big mistake for me. I had him last year. I did not see this coming. And again, I go to spring training. I'm at the Houston Astros facility a lot, like 20 days out of the 35 days. I saw Garrett Cole pitch. I'm the one who identified on the channel last year Charlie Morton having a breakout year. I was the guy. I just didn't see it with Cole at all. And that's a big mistake for me. I don't have Garrett Cole anywhere. I didn't advocate him. I didn't think he'd be very good. Also on the Astros, speaking of which, last year, Alex Bregman got off to a very slow start. And I thought the reason why was because he was in the World Baseball Classic and he didn't get a lot of at-bats in the spring. So I thought, okay, with a full spring training, that second half of what Bregman did last year is just going to carry right over to the first half. Now, I still could be right. There's that possibility. But, I don't feel great about that pick right now. And maybe he is a great reality player, but just not a great fantasy player, because he's definitely was overpaid for and overdrafted in leagues that he's in. And then speaking of closers, in the NL leagues, you got to take one. Okay. In the AL leagues, you really do. If you don't, you can still do well. You can still win because you can get to June. You can make a trade. I still am not heavily invested in the closer, but I try to get one if I can. Felipe Rivero Vasquez is the one that I have in the league that we're playing in. So
wait, who?
You know him. And then the other one that I took, and I totally misidentified. This is the biggest mistake that I made so far this year. I thought to myself, okay, the Diamondbacks are going to be a good team. I don't know if they're going to be a great team, but they'll be good. Let me get the closer for the Diamondbacks. And if I don't get him, let me get the backup, because we don't know who it's going to be. So I figured to myself, all right, why did they sign Hirano from Japan? They didn't sign him to come over and be the seventh inning guy, right? All right, I'll take him. And you know what? If he doesn't work out, it's got to be Archie Bradley. I'll make him the closer. So I took him too. And I didn't get Boxberger. And I totally whiffed. And Boxberger, if I had Boxberger in NL Tout Wars, I'd be in first. And because I'm not, I'm in third. So, and I gave that advice out too during the spring, saying I didn't think Boxberger would be the guy. My biggest mistake so far.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. I was driving the Hirano train all spring long. Every time I was doing a mock draft or a draft for some other league, second to last round, third to last round, there it was. Yoshihisa Hirano. I loved him so much, Craig. I spent time focusing on pronouncing his name properly. And
usually, Howard, these guys do well when they come over. Like Sung Hwan Oh has done well. A lot of the guys from Asia in those first couple of years have a lot of success. And the two guys, ironically, and Hirano's been good, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not pitching poorly.
No, it's just he's not getting saved, so that's it. But then the other guy, who the Padres spent good money on, Kaz Makita, his ERA is 7. I think they sent them down. And there was some talk that he would be the closer of the Padres and Hand would be the mill guy, But now it's like Hand or Yates or nothing. And Makita, I ended up throwing $1 at also to say, you never know. And boy, this is not been the year for that. That's for sure.
Let me see. I'm sure I have more here. I just have to look up really where the hardcore is. Let me go to the proper. Here you want to know what? Here's a mistake, and this is about really not grasping your rules enough or really being able to maneuver. Shohei Ohtani in a weekly league, Craig, sucks.
That was a big mistake, man. That was a big mistake.
Sucks. And I took him in the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. There you go. There, not knowing your league rules, I thought that Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational.
I thought that was.
Of course, it's going to be a daily league.
I thought it was. Of
course, it is.
I thought it was.
Yeah, and so I ended up taking Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani in a league with weekly roster moves where you have to decide: is he a hitter or is he a pitcher?
Terrible.
Horrible. You never get a 2-start week from him, and he pitches once for you. And if it's a bad outing, I mean, he's not had many bad outings here, but if it's a bad outing, it kills you. If it's a good outing, it's like, yeah, okay, it's not really gonna do much for you in the grand scheme of things. You can stream somebody else in. So I was definitely wrong on that, not realizing just how bad it was going to be in that kind of a league. Garrett Richards, by the way, there's another pitcher who I whiffed on. I definitely whiffed on.
You don't have Goss. I mean, Gossman's pitched well the last couple of months, but you saw him come back last night, right?
Hate Kevin Gossman. I have always hated Kevin Gossman. He was
going to make us look bad for a minute there until.
No, he was not. He was never going to make us look bad. Listen, the Kevin Gossman truthers out there, I hope you all played him in DFS yesterday. I hope you all started him in your seasonal leagues. When are you ever going to learn with this guy? Like, that's the thing. Like, I have more faith in Dylan Bundy turning everything around than I do Kevin Gossman.
Hey, what if, hey, Howard, I mean, we don't know the answer to this, but what if Kevin Gossman got traded to the Astros after this season? What do you think his numbers? I'm just curious. Like, do you think he'd be good?
Then I'm all in. I'm 100% all in.
Right. Look at Colin McHugh. Have you looked at Colin McHugh's numbers this year? I mean, Colin McHugh is like Eckersley. Like, well, take a look at. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think Colin McHugh gave up a home run the first day of the season. He hasn't given up a run since. No runs the whole season. I mean, it's nuts.
Listen, I sit there and I like to track pitching coaches. I like to know where Jim Hickey's going to be. I like to know, Pittsburgh starters with Ray Searage. For years, it was like, give me a Cardinal starter with Dave Duncan. I love it. And now it's like, if anybody goes near Houston, I'm in now. Now I'm all in. I mean, it has to. There's got to be something. And and it was kind of funny because I spoke to Jim about it also, and he said that what they were doing as far as their evaluation system goes, and how they all the video they take on you and all the different angles and whatnot. And he was, very impressed with what was going on there, to the point where it wasn't just about Trevor Bauer and sticky substances and spin rates, that there's more to it than that. So, yeah, listen, Kevin Gossman goes to Houston. I'm all in. I'm all in on any.
By the way, it is something to watch for next year, because Dallas Keuchel's a free agent, and I'm almost positive he'll be gone. So they'll have somebody new in that rotation next year. Yeah, I mean he's been okay this year, but it's been more for the hard throwers, I think, that it's worked out than for a guy like Keuchel. But in terms of a couple of things going on, I think that it's important probably to touch on the Pirates situation, because Starling Marte went on the DL. I own him in one league out of 5, so I'll have to make that adjustment. I can't do anything now. I'll wait till after the weekend. Howard, we've talked about Austin Meadows now for years. I have probably less enthusiasm and excitement for him than I even have for Franmil Reyes, because I kind of know who he is. Right. I think in an NL only league, in our leagues, he'll get picked up. He will. He'll start for a week. If he hits, maybe he'll stay. But I just don't. My opinion is, if he was so good, why didn't he start the season with the team? It just didn't happen for him. So I don't know how you feel about him. I'll add him in NL leagues and mixed. I'm not doing it.
I'll add him if I need the outfielder. Absolutely. Listen, anybody who at this point in time with our leagues, it's all about getting as many at bats as you can.
That's it.
If the guy's going to play, the guy's going to play. If you have to take a hit in batting average, you do it. But hopefully you'll get some help in runs scored, stolen bases, home runs, RBI, whatever the case may be. You'll get some counting stats added to your team. Screw batting average. Nobody gives a crap about batting average anyway. It's a dying stat, and it's the one stat that you can legitimately punt in fantasy baseball. And I'm never about punting categories. I've never been about punting categories. But now all of a sudden it's like saves and batting average. Yeah, bye-bye. Don't need them. So Austin Meadows, I'll give him a look, but I'm not jumping through hoops over the guy. I'm with you in that frame of mind. Is that if a guy is that good, if the pedigree, like somebody asked me about the AAA catcher for the Twins when Jason Castro went down, and if he was going to be worth anything, if he was, he's trying to upgrade his catcher position. I'm like,
Garver?
No, not Mitch Garver. The kid that they're bringing up, the kid who's in AAA right now, who has like a 3% strikeout rate, but then you look at his other numbers and he's got some decent hits right now, and his batting average is looking pretty good, but his isolated power mark is at 92.092.
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, and I said to the guy, I'm like, the dude's 26 years old and he's in AAA. If you think that he's going to be an upgrade to your team, how? Why? I mean, unless you have nobody in your lineup and you're taking zeros left and right, there's no way that this guy's going to be an upgrade for you. If it hasn't happened for him by now at 26, sorry, He was in the
Yeah, I
system
agree.
when the team picked up Jason Castro. So if he was that promising of a player, they probably wouldn't have brought in Castro for the money that they paid for him. So, yeah. So when it's Austin Meadows, and yeah, again, he's only 23. I get that, but we should have seen him,
Yeah,
with
I
the
don't
way
know. I'm just not
prospects are
sold.
being brought up.
In Tout Wars, I drafted Meadows in the reserve rounds,
Okay,
and
fine.
the reason why was because I said to myself, just like we're talking, if he's so good, he'll make the team in 2 weeks, and he'll be on the team, and he didn't, and so I let him go. And so, I'll probably have to bid on him this weekend, but I'm just simply not in on him. I'm just not going to invest that heavy on him because I kind of feel like when Marte comes back, he goes right in. I don't see a place for Meadows to play. By the way, Jose Osuna was destroying Osuna, OSUNA from the Pirates, was destroying AAA pitching. And every time he comes up, he hits too. So I just don't see a lot of room for Meadows, but he will play for the next 7 days. That's for sure.
All right, let me ask you a question here because I just wrote my article for the New York Post talking about identifying trends without having to dive hardcore into the metrics. Yes, you can sit and study batting average on balls in play, home run per fly ball ratio. You can study all of those and try to identify the trends. You can also look at it for the simple fact of what's going on. You can watch the weather and understand that it's heating up, that the rainouts are going to be less. There's going to be more consistency. The ball travels better when you're talking about 90-degree Texas heat as opposed to northeast hurricane weather that teams are trying to play through. Also talk about players coming back from injury and really what happened. So I cited the Baltimore Orioles because coming into the season, Trumbo went on the DL, and then inside the first 2 weeks of the season, Jonathan Scope and Tim Beckham were lost. Okay, so you had Manny Machado, but then you had nobody else. Chris Davis was slumping. Nobody was hitting for that team. 2 weeks ago, Scope is back. Trumbo's back. The Orioles now, in the past 2 weeks, are number 1 in home runs, number 3 in runs scored, and number 4 in RBI overall for the league. So you talk about that kind of an influx here for that. Jake Lamb making the return for the Arizona Diamondbacks this week. Can that have a similar effect on Goldschmidt and the rest of that lineup, or are we still believing that the Humidor is just crapping it up for us on the offensive front at Chase?
Yeah, that's a really good point, by the way, with the Orioles, because they do have the offense. So, that's more of a fan, and it's good for the fantasy article you're doing. It's just for reality. I think you and I would agree when you've buried yourself 15 games under 500. If the Orioles play 500 ball the rest of the season, which is probably what they are, they're still going to finish with 90 losses on the year. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is, I think, valid if they still have the players you're talking about at the deadline. And there is a chance that they won't with Jones and Machado. But for the next few months, you're probably right. You're spot on. And Joey Rickard came up and has hit well for Baltimore also. He's not a bad pickup in a very deep league if he's going to get playing time. Colby Rasmus, who I love every year and he lets me down, has been on the DL since the beginning of the season, and Rickard's going to get a chance to play a little bit, and maybe a chance to play more if they trade Jones. Not a bad option to look at. And what was the other the second part of that?
Was Jake Lamb when he returns?
Oh,
when he returns for the.
I wanted to talk about Jake Lamb. He may come back tonight. Yeah, Lamb may be back tonight, not even next week. That's an impact bat, and I agree with you on that one too. I think there's a chance that he could really help, especially against right-handed pitching. It does appear that the Humidor has played a factor. I haven't seen anybody update that, by the way, recently in terms of what the power numbers have looked like, but it's pretty obvious with the Diamondbacks batting, I think, 201 in the month of May, that it has affected them for sure. So I think Lamb adds to that equation. And for those people who held on to him all this time for fantasy, don't forget to get him back in. Remember what an impact guy he's been the last couple of years. 30 home runs, 29 home runs. And the Diamondbacks need him back badly, so hopefully he's back tonight. Also, the Marlins are making 2 moves yesterday. I announced that they optioned Junichi Tozawa, no fantasy value. Tyler Cloyd, no fantasy value. They are not calling up Alcantara, which disappoints me. They're calling up Adam Conley. And they're calling up Dylan Peters. So in leagues where you may need a streaming starter for next week, and you can do it now, and you want to get ahead of the game before the Marlins announce this at 2:00, Conley I think is going to be in the rotation maybe next week and make a start. So you can get ahead of the game right now by doing that. Nobody knows. It hasn't been announced.
What are you doing with Alcantara? Because I've got him stashed in 2 leagues, but one of those leagues I could probably use that roster space for another player. What are you doing with him?
I'm going to hold until June. I'm going to give this another 2 weeks to see if they decide to call him up. He pitched 8 innings last night. He gave up 2 runs. Both were 2 solo shots. His strikeout rate has dropped significantly in the minors because they want him to be more efficient with his pitches and not walk as many players. If you said to me, hey, look, I got an issue, I got to cut him, I would probably say, okay, to be honest with you. But I do think that he comes up in the next couple of weeks. I think he'll be the Marlins, either their best pitcher or their second best pitcher. But if you need roster space, this could be more time away than I initially thought, especially based on what's going on. It doesn't really make a lot of sense that they're starting a Rule 5 guy with Eliezer Hernandez, who they started the other day, over him. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but the Marlins are not in a position to win. And if they need to see more from Alcantara in the minors, that's what they're going to do.
If I offered you Alcantara for a first baseman in a trade, Craig, would you take him?
It depends on who it was.
Who you got at first base?
I don't even know. I could check right
I'll
now.
negotiate this deal right now, dude. Come on.
Let's
Help
take a
me.
look.
Help me. Help you. Help me.
Unfortunately, who I have in a couple of leagues is Soroka. That was really disappointing.
Yeah. Again.
Oh, I got a guy.
Here's the thing.
A first baseman.
What, to trade for me? Who?
Oh, you won't even trade for him because he's so good. He's chasing Don Mattingly's consecutive home run game record here. You hate him. He's good. He's proven you wrong. And his name is?
I don't know. What's his name?
Brandon Belt.
I don't hate Brandon Belt. Are you trading me Brandon Belt?
No, not trading Belt.
Well, then why are you bringing him up?
Just to stick it to you.
Yeah. I don't hate Brandon Belt. I just don't think that Brandon Belt, and again, this is us, obviously, this is Bay Area people coming down at me, who talk about this guy like all of a sudden he's going to start swinging a bat that's going to pop 25 to 30 home runs. He's not that guy. I mean, this year I could see.
He's got 9 already, Howard. He's got 9.
Right. I gotcha. Where does he top out then this year?
Listen, you're gonna lose the Yelich bet to me. Do you want to make another bet on? I mean, if I'll make a fair bet. You lost the Harvey bet. That was an easy one. If I said to you,
I lost the battle, but I'll win the war on Harvey.
You may. 19.5. If I set the total right now for Brandon Belt's home runs, 19.5. You would take under on 19.
No. I wouldn't.
Okay.
But
all right. So
am I taking 25? No. I mean, set the bar a little higher there.
24.5, you'd go under. Okay, and I wouldn't do that bet because that's not a guarantee. I like to take bets that I guarantee I could win. But you're right. But if Belt, by the way, hit 23 home runs, Howard, that's 5 above his career high. It's a significant number.
I agree with you. I think it's a very significant number, but is it a sustainable number for him? Like that's
next year? I don't care.
Is he all of a sudden? Yeah. Okay.
This isn't the Matt Deutsch Keeper Fest. It's a 1-year league. I'm out after this year. I'm done.
Where's my grenade? All right. Look at the time.
Done?
Yeah, I think we're done here. Let's see. I'll take the under. Adam Lorber says he'll take the under on the Belt bet with under 25.
Of course he will, dummy. What do you think I am?
Oh,
I don't make bets that I can lose. I make bets that give me the advantage here. That's what I got to do.
Yes, we know. We all know.
If anybody wants to bet me on 19.5, let me know.
Let me ask you. I'll give you one question, and then we're out of here. And listen. You know what? We started a little late, so we gotta. Let's give the people their time. Let's give the people their.
Is this like the World Cup penalty soccer time?
That's exactly what it is.
Play stoppage. Matt Wolf stoppage.
Is it time to cut bait on Will Myers? My healthy pitching anchors are Eflin, thanks Craig, Pavetta, thanks Craig, and Strasburg. You guys like getting Newcomb? Seager. This is not written in clear English here, which is
Of
very
course you want
interesting.
Newcomb. What do you mean? Newcomb looks great. By the way, he said thanks, Craig. Thanks, Craig. What about Will Myers? Who was that a thanks for?
There was no thanks on that.
Yeah, I bet.
That's probably. Oh, listen, I own one share of Will Myers. And I will never do it again, ever, ever. He's ruining me in this league, ruining me.
It's always hurt.
Would you trade Kyle Seager and Luis Castillo for Will Myers,
No.
Jeremy Hellickson,
What?
and Chris Davinsky?
Oh man, I love to end this on a high note.
Right. Kyle
Are we doing
Seager
what's in
and
the
Luis.
shed, or we're done? Just ignore that. That was the stupidest trade offer I've ever heard. Are we doing what's in the shed?
No.
I got something. What's in the office? Can we do it?
You give me what's in the office. I got nothing here in the shed.
Okay, so this is in my office today. I dug this out of my drawer. This is will be 18 years old today. It's still no, it's not mint condition. Looks like I've got some coffee on it maybe at some point. This is an All-Star Game ballot. Remember when we used to? They're opening the All-Star Game balloting up next week, right? So
Oh, yeah, I'm
this
excited.
is this this is an All-Star Game ballot from 2000, from the year 2000, from Cleveland, and it's unpunched. Right there. So if you're going to do an all-star ballot this year, you got to do it online like you have for the last 5 years. But looking at this steroid-filled all-star ballot, American League, Albert Bell, Brady Anderson, Carl Everett, Manny
Ooh.
Ramirez, Greg Vaughn.
Who are 6 guys not going to the Hall of Fame?
Nationally, Sammy Sosa, Gary Sheffield,
Oh.
Ricky Henderson on the Mets.
Ooh. On the
Gene
Mets.
Edmonds. Oh, Cliff Floyd. That's a good one. Vladimir Guerrero, Luis Gonzalez. I think he hit 70 home runs that year. Remember that? Henry Rodriguez. We had him at some point in fantasy,
Henry
right?
Rodriguez.
Oh, he's going to be great, right? We had that guy.
How much do you love going through like some like old names and just remember like some of the guys from like your old fantasy teams that you were invested in? I had a conversation with somebody the other day about Garrett Atkins. Remember him, the third baseman for the Rockies?
You can't read this. It's too close. Rubio Durazo. Love him. Big
He was
sleeper
going to be
this
the
year.
greatest first baseman ever.
Rico Bronya.
Oh, fuck.
Unbelievable. This is great.
Oh, my
This
God. These
turned
names
out
are
actually
classic.
than I thought. Jeff Cirillo had a monster year at Coors one year, man. Like a monster. He batted like 350, 360.
Yep. Then he went to Milwaukee and he couldn't hit his way out of a paper bag.
Shocker.
Give me
Morris?
some more. Give me some more. Come
Pokey
on.
Reese?
Oh, Pokey Reese. So my wife, when she first started doing fantasy baseball, it was 1998, maybe, when she finally joined the league that my friends and I, we were all doing. We all sat at the same poker table. And that year, she, for the first 2 years, she was drafting players strictly because of them being cute or having cool names. So, like Andy Pettit, Travis Lee, handsome Steve Finley. These were all fixtures.
Oh, yeah.
These were all fixtures for her team. But then she started with the names, and Pokey Reese was like one of her all-time faves.
Pokey Reese. Remember Carlos Febles, the second baseman? That guy was going to be a stealing star.
He was a
And the Royals,
fixture. I loved him. He was the greatest.
We know all the guys because they were supposed to be great. Offerman, Jose Offerman.
Jose Awfulman. Yep. I mean, come on. Angel Baroa won a Rookie of the Year in, 2003?
Unbelievable. You're right. Let's see. I think that's more or less it. Marvin Benard, Benard. You know him, right?
Yeah. From the Giants, outfielder.
Roger Cedeno. Oh, sleeper right there. Big sleeper. Roger Cedeno. Chad Hermanson?
Not Dustin Hermanson? Chad Hermanson?
Oh, Chad. I don't even know what that is. I don't even remember. Anyway.
I love what's in the office today, man. I love that stroll down memory lane. Can't you throw me like a name like FP Santangelo in there too?
Yeah, he's a broadcaster right now for the Nationals.
Sorry, guys. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in here to the Fantasy Alarm live stream. As always, thank you. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for all your commentary. You can follow Craig on Twitter at Craig Mish. It's right down there below. You can follow me at Roto Buzz Guy. We will be back Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, 12 Eastern. Lots to recover from the weekend. We'll see if we can help. I'm sure we can. If not, we'll at least keep you entertained. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. This has been the Fantasy Alarm live stream. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Take care.